to come to a hospital to see your son or your daughter with a knife in the heart. It can be difficult to deal with. And we don't know how these things do happen, but we know that something can be done about these events. And so the reason for our meeting here today is to look back, but also look currently, and then also see how best we can move forward and address this menace in our society. Around 2008, no, before 2008, there were massive immigration into the UK, especially in London, in Sadok, where we are. And with the Rwandan war, a lot of young people came around. Not only them, but also all over the world, people were coming around. And the police didn't know how to deal with these migrants who have come. Perhaps they've come from places where there are no choices, but now, once you get to the UK, you go to Sainsbury Market, and you're looking for example, you're looking for a toothpaste. You can get different kinds of toothpaste, and you don't even know what to pick from. And so these young men who have come here, over the years, more like they got confused. They don't know whether they're Africans or Caribbeans or British. They don't even know what they are. And we begin to have serious issues because of the choice which people have, how they can use the choice effectively to either better themselves. And when there are no opportunities where you can exercise your choice, sometimes the road is limited. And when you get into difficulties, then you find our young people trying to find ways by which they can defend themselves if they engage or if someone attacks them. So we have a lot of groups in Peckham where you have territories where you don't have to go to somebody's territory, because if you dare step out of your zone and went to another zone, there is trouble. These are the issues that we were confronting with. And then the police also introduced this stop and search, which was used indiscriminately against the black community, which we were not happy. I remember sitting with the borough commander of Sadok, and he was asking me what we can do to curb this menace. And I made my suggestions to him. And some of the things I did, I wrote them down. I didn't just speak to him, but I wrote them down. And I made some practical suggestions as to how we can encourage our young people so that once we encourage them, they will not go this route. And one of the things I said to the commander was, I was then the pastor here, and I said to him, what our young people tell me is this: when the policemen stop them, 2 white policemen stops the black child, it is likely that he will be abused racially, or they give them body blows in those days, where the blows that they give you do not manifest themselves physically, but from the time when they are stopped to the time of custody, they may have injured this child in a way that nobody sees that. So I made a suggestion that I would like to see in Peckham 1 black, 1 white police on the beat. That is the only way I believe that our children or our young ones may not be molested, because 2 coppers, 1 black and 1 white, it is unlikely that if I'm stopped, I will be racially abused. I also made a suggestion that they have the money. The Met has the money, so they can invest into sports activities in our borough, so that our young people can be involved in that. Those who want to take the route of sports, the police are engaged in that. In that way, they are involved in the community events, not only to arrest people, but also be involved. And then finally, I made a suggestion that because they have money, they can sponsor the ethnic minority children to do forensic engineering, and so that we can also become part of the police, because when you look at the system, you find that there are few black boys in the police system. But it happened, and we're here today since 2009 or 2008 when the gun and knife issue became rampant. It hasn't changed. In fact, in the last year, it looks like we're going back to where we came again. So the essence of this program tonight is to look back, but also bring to your forefront as parents that as you sit here, you never know what's going on somewhere. You got to be sure that when your child or somebody comes home, you are aware of their groups, of their friends, because you never know what might happen. And so as we go through the program tonight, it is my pleasure and also on behalf of the church to let you know that we all care, but you are welcome to express yourself, but also you're welcome to enjoy the program. It is a full program, and I believe that by the time we finish, we would have found some ways to move forward. But whatever you can do in your own little way to move the nation forward, then you can do that as a citizen as well. When I went to Brixton, I followed what I do here to Brixton as well. And I met with Matt Bell, who was then the borough commander. And I made the same suggestions to him, but I put it into practice. So every Thursday, myself and the sergeant for the area, Jack, who is now the inspector of Brixton, we will walk every Thursday for 2 hours, doing on the beat. And sometimes at night time, I'll be with them in their van. We'll go out and I see how they operate. And it was effective because what I told Mr. Chinchin here, which he didn't do, Matt Bear put in place. And as I walk with the police around Brixton, dressed nicely, we were able to break barriers because nobody wanted to talk to them. But as we walk around and talk, I remember we engaged a guy who the police then two of them wanted to stop and search, and he was, as black people, who you taking me for? What's this? They are in your face. But he was very cool. I don't know because I was there, but they were very cool and dealt with him. And it's important that we do that in terms of the police, but also our response as citizens to how policing is done. And I'm sure that as we engage here tonight, we'll be very well prepared, just in case something like this happens again. We will know exactly what to do. So, with this, I will now ask the Yvette to come and share your story, and then the program will continue from there. Scripture reading.
This is what the Lord says. A cry is heard in Ramah, deep anguish and bitter weeping. Rachel weeps for her children, refusing to be comforted, for her children are gone. But now, this is what the Lord says. Do not weep any longer, for I will reward you, says the Lord. Your children will come back to you from the distant land of the enemy. There is hope for your future, says the Lord. Your children will come again to their own land.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for coming. This forum is, I organized by myself. My name is Yvette Ryan Graham, and on this date, the 3rd of February 2007, I lose my 21-year-old son. I was sitting right in this church over that side when I had consistent phone call coming in. I did not pick my phone up because when I look on it, it was a member of my family who I speak to regular. And at that time when he phoned, I thought he was just phoning to have a chat. So I didn't speak to him at that time. When church finished, I went to, I started to get home. I was with Sister Cephlin Brooks, who was driving home. And on my way, the phone started to ring again. And Cephlin said to me, pull over, answer the phone. And I pull over. And my cousin said to me, oh, you need to get to the hospital. He said, ask, what is it? He wouldn't tell me, just said, it's Javari. You need to get to the hospital. And when, by the time I get there, I was there about a couple of minutes before the doctor told me, oh, we are so sorry, he's gone. This day, it really mean a lot to me, because at that time, at 2011, at 2007, he was 21. My daughter was approaching the 11. This coming March, Serena will be 21. And that's what prompted me to have this forum today. I feel it a part of me I'm missing, but I thank God that I'm able to live to see Serena reach 21. Because that was my worst fear. Because I keep looking over my shoulder, I keep looking over her shoulder, but I've been through a lot since then. I've got a lot of health issue, and I managed to overcome it by the help of God. And I'm still struggling. I'm really, really struggling at the moment, but, you know, God is good. So I just want you to continue to pray for me as we go along. There's other mothers is here that keep me going during that time. And I must also thank my church family, because without them, I don't think I would be here today. On that Saturday when it happened, from then Pastor Jones Lati have been by my side from the hospital right through the trial. Everything, every forum, everything that I go through, he have been there with me, and I thank God for his life also. And I hope and pray that we might continue to band together as a church family, and God will bless all of you who support me during that terrible time. Thank you.
Yvonne?
Great is thy faithfulness, O God, my Father. There is no shadow of turning morning with thee. Thou changest not, thy compassion, they fail not. As thou hast been, thou forever wilt be. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see, and all I have needed, thine hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Pardon for sin and a peace that endureth, thine own dear presence to cheer and to guide, strength for today and bright hope for tomorrow. Blessings all mine with 10,000 beside. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, brand new mercies I see, and all I have needed, thine hands hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me.
Thank you, Marilyn, for that reminder. Great is thy faith. Were it not for grace, where would we have been? We thank you for that rendition. Yvonne, please do come and share some experience with us.
Good afternoon, everyone. What we can say, great is God's faithfulness. Things doesn't only happen in England. It doesn't only happen in Africa. It doesn't only happen in Barbados or wherever, but it does happen all over the world. In the 90s, I went to Jamaica, and that was the very first time I met my nephew. He was in his early 20s. A very, very nice young man, very jovial and very nice. And we got on really, 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 really good. And by the time I got back here, my sister called and said, my nephew, Flint, is dead. And that was during the night. Then I got up and I walked to this bedroom and I walked to the other bedroom. It's like I'd gone silly. Because when you hear this kind of news, you're just all over the place. And I think, no, this can't be true. This cannot be true because we've not too long left Jamaica and he was fine. So to get to the bottom of this, it was that my nephew was sitting on a fence or a wall, and he was singing a song. And these two girls passed by while he was singing the song, minding his own business. Now they went back and told their boyfriends that my nephew is singing a song on them. Sometimes you hear some kind of songs and it have some kind of wording in it, and it might sound as if, just say, you are no good, or just making up something to say this is what the song was about. And now they went and they told their boyfriends that my nephew, Flint, was singing a song about them. And these guys now, 3 of them, they went straight to where my nephew was sitting, and they took out their knives and they stabbed him. And not only stab him and just that, they stab him to death. My nephew didn't even get to the hospital. He was right on the ground when my sister had to go and pick him up off the ground. So you can imagine how they must have felt, because he was only young and he's got young sisters and brothers. So imagine that somebody tell you that your brother is dead. That is kind of unbelievable. But I tell you this, they killed him, and the 3 guys who killed my nephew, all 3 persons are now dead. Can you imagine that? They are now dead. The police caught them, and somehow something happens in prison, and they're dead. So I tell you, I'm not going to say God is good, but sometimes what goes around comes around. And I just want to say, I'm sure I must have said this before, but I just want to say, it's happened. Sister Yvette, it's not just you alone. It just happened. And, we just have to cling together and continue to love one another, because God is coming back soon, when there will be no more death, no more partying, no more tears. And, if we are being faithful, who knows, we might meet our loved ones again.
Until Jesus comes, we must occupy. These are the things we face, and Caroline has been somebody who, because of these events, she's taken personal interest in gun and knife crime. And the thing is that it happens in our community. We can't blame anybody, but it happens in our community, in the black community as well. So we have to find ways by which we can address them. And we can also work collectively with the police, because they are not our enemies. But, okay, some people have different views about the police, but I believe that we can all work together, because whatever happens, when I'm stabbed or when something happens, I still have to call the police. So I believe that we can work together. So, Caroline, I will ask you to come and share your experiences with us, what you've seen, what you studied, and give us the facts.
Greetings, everyone. Hi, my name is Caroline Namagabi, as you see. I'm the founder of Think Tank 720. I'm also a professional psychologist, and I'm a Mackenzie friend at law. I represent people in court. I also go to prison and counsel prisoners and so forth. So thanks, Sister Yvette, for welcoming me here in the church. First and foremost, I just want to thank the pastors for opening up their gates to discuss this topic. Gun and knife crime is not a joke. It is not a joke. It's something that is happening in the UK and wide world, actually. And so it's hit the UK in certain ethnic communities. And my question is, why is it happening in ethnic communities? So today I'm just going to walk you through a psychological view where I'm going to be dealing with trauma. After someone loses someone, and also after someone is taken to prison, they face trauma. And after the trauma, there's financial implications too. And so, if Pastor, you can go to the first slide, please. So what is trauma? So trauma has 2 components in it. It's got a psychological and physiological experience. And when someone goes through trauma, is a deeply distressing and disturbing experience. When someone loses a person or a human being, or someone's taken to prison, they both face, it's like a barrel, like a double sword. They both face trauma, and they both face sad emotions and experience. Next slide, please. And so I'm going to explain psychological trauma. Psychological trauma usually deals with emotions of the person, with unhealthy emotions, which deals with anger. Now we know when someone gets angry, oftentimes when a family is affected with gun and knife crime, or the whole family is in distress. So it can take one of the members of the family, to go back and react because of anger. And so they may face imprisonment after that as well. And the immediate mom and dad, they'll face the sadness and so forth. Then we deal with anxiety and depression, and then the health start declining. If someone cannot handle trauma, some people start cutting themselves and having bipolar. And schizophrenia, which gives you hallucination, and then the medication has to come through. So it's a big financial system. When we lose someone in the community, we don't only lose them and then put them in the ground, that's also money, but we also lose them to the community as a whole, and the financial baggage is a lot. So this is the physical trauma now. The physical trauma entails body disfigurement, damage and cuts and bruises, pain and injuries, brain damage and behavior can be affected, internal bleeding, external bleeding. Now, I go to rehab centers and I see gun and knife victims. You know, when you see a young, handsome black man who is in the wheelchair and has been affected by a gun, you know, he's got brain damage, so he's lost his identity, first of all. He's dependent upon the carers, and the family is affected. You know, the family have to fork out a lot of money, because what's happened is their medication, the healthcare system now has to look after someone who's dependent on them. So when we have this happening in our community, the physical impact of trauma is also very, 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 very difficult to deal with on the both ends. And you can, say for example, in a hospital wing in prison, when someone's killed someone and also they've also been injured and they're taken in prisons, they have to go to the hospital wings in prison. Who pays for that? You guys do, right? The public. So those are public funds. So we need to look at, is this situation, is this knife and gun crime a financial system that is set up by the system to benefit them and targeting a certain community? I leave that to your thoughts. Let's go to the next slide, please. So I'm going to look at the perspective on gun and knife crime. If we can play the first video. So this is someone who has a perspective on the youth, what the adults think about the youth.
Who become adults, who, have mercy.
Oh. Give him a minute, please.
Who become adults, who, have mercy and sympathy for everything, from the animals to the whales to fur to everything except us, your youth, the ones who you've given no attention to, who become adults with no compassion. You know what I mean? And I feel like if you walk by a street and you was walking on concrete and you saw a rose growing out of concrete, even if it had messed up petals and it was a little, to the side, you would marvel at just seeing a rose grow through concrete. So why is it that when you see some ghetto kid grow out of all of the dirtiest circumstances, and he can talk and he can sit across from you, make you smile, make you cry, make you laugh, all you can talk about is my dirty rose, my dirty stems, and how I'm leaning crooked to the side? You can't even see that I came up out of that.
So yeah, I will explain that. Basically, that's a young man called Tupac Amaru Shakur. So he was saying that when the adults see the youths, they really don't encourage them. So when the youths become adults, they become adults without compassion. So if I'm an adult without a compassion, I can do anything, So, and then he goes on to say that you see a rose that grew from a concrete. So it grew from nothing due to the communities that they've come from. These actual youths, they grow from nothing. but how they affect the environment and how they're received by the community is also important. So we need to support our youths. It's imperative. Can we go to the next slide, please, love? This is another perspective from a mother who's lost their child to gang crime.
Yeah. The police had told me that they held the guy, but they haven't got any proof. Nobody has come forward to say this is a guy that shot Kavian. So there's not much that one can do.
When I was shot, no one was arrested. No one went to court. No one came forward. There was quite a lot of people there, and that's the way it was. I was shot 3 years ago. I'd seen the police only once, and I haven't seen the police since, up till now, up to this day. If that's the way that they're treating a attempted murder case, you know, what are they treating like a real murder?
Nothing much isn't really being done, is it? With all the shooting, the killing, and whatever that's going on, you know, there's not much people that's been caught for what they've done. Even like the little girl, Tony Ann, a little innocent child, she hasn't even lived.
In every walk of life, we have challenges and there's a struggle. We don't need to fight ourselves. We need to fight the enemy. We need to fight injustice. We need to fight oppression. We need to fight those things that hold us down, not fight ourselves.
I don't think the media did do their jobs properly. They was only interested in some bad story about my dad so they could put it all over in the newspaper, and that is what they basically did. They came and they said they're gonna offer me money to talk to them, and I said no. I wasn't interested.
How much money were they offering?
They said they can't compensate me for the loss of my dad and my sister, but they're willing to pay me. They didn't really say how much, and I wasn't interested. I need the money, but not like that. All they had to say about my dad was he's been in prison and everything bad. They don't really try to get anything good. They never yet write, oh, he's a good father. The day before they died, he went to get Tony and school clothes for her to go to school. Nothing like that. They're just saying, oh, he was a drugs dealer, he got shot, Ray. It doesn't make sense. To me, the media over here, they're only just for, mostly for white people, I should say. Black people cannot do no good in this country. Whether you're trying to do good, yes or no, they never see the good that you've done. They only see the bad side of it.
If a woman's purse gets stolen, it was 3 black youths, and that fits the perfect picture.
That's the 3 black boys that are walking home from probably doing, like, you know, homework. Do you know what I mean? But they just happen to be walking down this road where an offence has happened and they've just been targeted, and like there's nothing they can do about it. They're going to be searched. They're probably going to get arrested. Their homes are going to probably be turned over. Do you know what I mean? And it's just not fair at the end of the day. Like, the police have got no respect for the young black youth.
They stop and search them, they harass them. You'll see one young black boy standing up, maybe 14, with 15 policemen standing around him, antagonising him. Now, he's not really going to grow up and have respect for the same people that antagonise him as a youth. Everywhere you walk, you'll see police stopping young black boys. You can't be a black boy maybe riding a bicycle with a cap on, late at night with your hood on. You can't be in a car.
Alright, you can stop it there.
With a cap on.
So, I want to ask a question. When you watched the funeral, what did you guys, how was you guys feeling? You saw that, you felt the trauma, right? So, this is what happens in the community. And the young ladies, they were like, there's obviously a targeted group. Now, I can see the Metropolitan Police here. I want to ask you a question. What is your opinion on gun and knife crime? Just a minute, please, I'm coming.
Hello. I haven't prepared a speech or anything, and obviously just been asked a question. I think the gun and knife crime is a big problem, and I think everyone needs to come together to deal with it. I know people can point fingers and say, oh, it's because of this or it's because of that, but I think we just need to work together, try and tackle it as best we can.
All right. Fantastic. Yeah.
I would like to say that we can all say things like, we should all come together, but just like the police officer said, we should all come together. But you have officers that go out there daily to actually antagonize our youth, and they're fed up and they're tired of it. I work in schools with young people. They go out on the street, they're getting harassed by police. So if we have to come together, they need to also work within their system about getting a better outlook, a better framework on how they work with young people.
100%.
They're fed up of it.
100%.
Okay, so I kind of work with the police. I'm a part of the community. I had a situation where even Pastor Jones Larty was aware that I was assaulted by the police, taken to court, was going to prosecute me, nearly like a social worker, nearly lost my job, but also I'm working with them. So, and I had to have that conflict. But then I resolved it within my mind. Just like in every community, there's good and bad. There's good and bad police officers. So the community, us, have to look within ourselves. Some of the things you're saying are correct. Some of the youth, they're choosing the badness. They love the badness. It's portrayed on the media as it's not just that, they come from poverty. No, it's not. Yeah, some of them do, but you can make choices. So I think the police have to look in them. They have to deal with, there's institutionalized racism still going on. They need to deal with that. That's not just the police, that's in society generally. But also as a people, we have to really kind of own up and say, you know what, as men, do we care for our nephews? Do we care for our sons? So everyone's to blame. It's not one section. So we have to come together.
No. It's not a one-man answer. It's not a one-man answer. Just one more person, please.
Good afternoon, church. I agree with my brother right next to me here. And the thing is, I want to say, I think for the guys that are here from Metropolitan Police, thank you for coming, yeah? And we know that you're sort of like Rorke's Drift at the moment, yeah? You're just there and everybody's there, going to be throwing a lot of things at you. You personally may not be the people that are responsible for certain things, yeah? But we understand because you wear the uniform, you will get the attention, yeah? There are those of us that don't wear a uniform, yeah? But we work in the system also, and we can tell you chapter and verse. I've been a youth worker for 20 years, right? And there are young people out there who are doing good with themselves and trying to strive forward and everything like that. And yes, occasionally, I think black men of a certain age can all tell a story of some point or the other where they've been stopped and harassed by the police, yeah? But equally, we can also say, I've done programs here before on stop and search and the benefits of it, yeah? And the thing is, with all the stabbings that have been going on and with all the shootings that have been going on, I guarantee, yeah, and if anybody disagrees with me, fine, you're entitled to your opinion, but I guarantee if more people were being stopped in a search, it would have been able to take a lot of these weapons off of the street. You understand me? So these guys here, they're doing a difficult job, right? Some of my colleagues in the allied professions, such as social work, youth work, whatever, we're trying to do a job to try and edify young people, to try and make sure that they don't, get into this kind of lifestyle. But it's hard. And then what about the parents that are turning a blind eye to certain things? Your kid has got a 60-inch TV in his room, right? Where's he got that TV from? You understand, right? And then you've got a situation as well where I know of one case, a parent, the boy brings home £300 a week, give it to her, yeah? She ain't saying nothing because you know what? It's making life easier for her, you understand, right? Just as long as he don't get caught or he don't get shot or whatever, she doesn't care. You understand?
Fantastic.
Right?
We'll deal with that after. Thank you very much for your opinion. So I'd like to move forward. Thank you very much, all of you, for your opinions. There will be a question and answer session at the end. Move on. I'm just unfolding. Next slide, please. So basically, this is where it is. Who's responsible and who's to blame, as we've been talking. Now, as a Mackenzie friend at law, I would like to walk you through a case we dealt with me and my Mackenzie friend partner in court, where the young man, up to now, is still pending to go for a knife crime. And this young man's mother came in court and he got remanded on remand, and the mum said, "Who's going to look after me now he's gone? Who's going to give me this money?" She had a breakdown. In psychology, we call that a breakdown. The trauma hasn't kicked in yet because it's not trauma yet. She had a breakdown. But she's not asking where the young man's getting that money from. And this is what parents, they make a mistake. You need to question and assess where your kids are, how they are doing, and so forth. But even then, as you said, there's youths and there's young men, adults, that are doing well, black young men, and it's not reported in the media. I mean, there was a journalist here, I don't know where she's gone. But these men or these young boys, yes, my dear, please do record facts. Yeah? Because the media do not record these young male role models that I know and that I see and that I work with. They don't report that. Why is that? But then when it gets to the European men, they are recorded on TV as positive role models. So we also need to question the media and the community. Liz, can you go on that, the click on the video, please? To show you. So now, this is David Lammy's report. We're dealing with facts now.
I didn't expect to find that the figures for young offenders were quite as bad as they are. I mean, if 41% of our youth prison population is from a black ethnic or minority ethnic background, that's heading to half of our prison estate. And I think the worst thing about it is the reoffending rate. 46% reoffending means that, frankly, the system isn't really working because people are coming back. So there are big questions about what's happening in our youth prisons.
You raise the question in your report of maturity. Do you think our definition, the legal age of young offenders, is wrong?
I met 18 and 19-year-olds sitting in adult prisons, and they're clearly in adult prisons mixing with some very, very serious criminals indeed. These were young men that often couldn't really assess risk and risky behaviour, were impulsive, spontaneous, poor at making judgments about peer group. And all of the modern evidence on the teenage brain and the development, if you like, of the youthful brain is that you really sort of settle down at about 25. And
so should young offenders still be classified as such up to the age of 25?
Well, what I'm recommending is that, like the German system, there is an assessment of maturity by independent psychiatrists and psychologists able to make that judgment about whether that young person ought to be in the youth estate.
We all grew up in the shadow of the Macpherson report. The term he used was institutionalised racism. Now, you don't call it that this time. Do you believe at its heart it is racism?
I did find bias, evidence of bias, and I did find evidence of overt discrimination, particularly in the prison system. I wasn't asked to do an inquiry into racism in the criminal justice system. I was asked to do a review, and I said that it had to be evidence-led, and very much you're looking at the academic evidence, you're spending time in prisons, you're speaking to people, you're really making an assessment of the figures and the data that's not been revealed before. And my judgment is that absolutely there is bias still in the criminal justice system.
But you don't use the term racism for a reason. Why?
It's because it was very hard for me to get into the minds of those who are actors in a very big system. In the end, our country has tended to focus on policing. My review was everything after policing. So what I'm suggesting is you intervene earlier with something called deferred prosecutions. You deal right away with the person who's committed that crime. I mean, you can only do this for those with first and second time offences.
It's very hard, isn't it, to turn round to, say, the victim of a mugging or whatever it is and say, sorry, at this point it makes more sense to put the culprit first.
The evidence from the pilot, the Turning Point pilot in the West Midlands, is that victims like this system, because I suspect for first and second time offences, where it's not, it's not very serious violent crime, what they want is action. They want that young person off dope.
David
They want that young person not sort of smashing up their cars.
But you're taking the punishment element out. Is that right? I mean, by deferring a prosecution, you're basically turning to the person who's done it and said, it's all right.
We actually use deferred prosecution for serious fraud. Because the state doesn't want to do huge, big fraud trials that cost a fortune, we go to the CEO that's just mismanaged funds and we ask them to defer prosecution, to work with the system, if you like, to fess up where are the bodies buried, and we defer prosecution.
And a lot of people would find that incredibly distasteful.
That is what we do in this country. So, I mean, I do think that if the system isn't working, if recidivism rates are 46% for black men, then something isn't working.
Do you feel comfortable, though, with saying we may become a system which prioritises wrongdoers over victims? Do you feel comfortable saying we're not going to tell employers about criminal records? Is it fair on an employer? Is it fair on that employer who might have a duty of care to his other members of staff? How far along that road would you feel comfortable going?
Well, I'm thinking of the scales of justice and I'm thinking of balance. I worry a lot about young people, particularly trapped in a culture of criminality because they can't get employment. 50% of employers say that they wouldn't employ someone with a criminal record. I might say also my recommendations are for everyone. I was asked to look at disproportionality for black and Asian and minority ethnic people, but a lot of my recommendations are for everyone. And we ought to think about more flexibility, or I'm afraid we're building in unemployment for large tracts of the country, not just black and Asian minority ethnic, but for white working class populations as well.
When you look at this mistrust...
So, we was talking about some solutions. David Lummy has rightly outlined that the police should be out of the picture. Because we need to safeguard the communities first. We need to safeguard the families first. And so, with these tools, there's a lot of there's people out there that if you don't go to court and you don't know what happens in court and the law and how the judges make judgments, you will not understand what really goes on. But today, I've got someone who's underneath the think tank 720. She's actually started her own organization called From Hood to Good, and she was affected by what we're speaking about. So I'll let her give you a word, like 5 minutes word, about what she does and what's happened to her.
run a new organisation called From Hood to Good. Hood to Good was my own experiences. A lot of things happened to me while I started. Hood to Good. I was affected by knife and gun crime.
Hold up your mic. They can't hear you.
Sorry, did you say sorry? Sorry, let me start again. So, my name is Jamila. I'm from an organisation called Hood to Good. Hood to Good. So it's Hood, Hood. So it's number 2 and GOOD.
Speak up, Jamila.
So Hood to Good's a youth organisation. Literally, I started about 2 years ago, but we've become more serious in the last year. I started Hood to Good because of the experiences I went through. I have older brothers. I'm one of 17. So my dad's got loads of kids and my mum's got 4. So first my brothers were doing postcode towards each other, where they were beefing each other. One was from Peckham, he was beefing the other one from Brixton. There's one from Summerley and he was beefing the one from Kenneton. And when I was younger in school, I wasn't the quiet one, but I wasn't the one I was more not street. I didn't have street knowledge. By the time I finished school, I got bullied and became the bullied. So I got started getting in trouble in school, got kicked out of every school that I went to, started fighting because there was a lot of people that didn't like my brothers. And if you don't like someone's brothers, the next person you're going to go through is the family. So that's what happened. I was targeted for being so-and-so's little sister. And I had to start defending myself. By the time I got to 18, the defending myself got me to... I could get jobs, but it was harder for me to get a job because I had 32 criminal records. So by the time I got to 18, my aunt used to work in probation, and she used to say to me, "Jamila, tell your story." And I used to be like, "Tell my story about what?" I went through a lot because of my brothers. By the time I was 14, was the first time I got kidnapped. By the time I was 18, they tried to hold us so I could call my brother and they could come and get my brother. But I didn't call him, so I went through so much beatings with different areas. There used to be something in Brixton where they used to do some silly thing called, if you didn't have a passport, you didn't have a permission from an older, you couldn't go in to a certain area. And my brothers were from a certain area, but a lot of people didn't know who my brothers was, and I wasn't willing to tell them. So because I didn't tell a lot of people that I had older brothers, I went through a lot of things from people that didn't know I had older brothers. So I took a lot of beatings. So I had my daughter, and my little sister, she kept on coming to me with like loads of little boys saying, "Jamila, can you talk to them because they listen to you and you know everyone, so can you talk to them?" I didn't really take it serious. First I started with just started a group chat and I got 130 youth. Then I started going to write letters, acting like people's parents to get them into accommodation, speaking to parents, talking about why she doesn't want her son at home and how he's influencing the other youth. I started to do workshops on how to become a man with other organizations and talk about experience of what I went through. My baby father went to jail for murder, so then I went through the whole thing, the whole system thing again, with a lot of people looking at me because I was so-and-so's baby mum. It was different. So then I started Hood to Good, started doing workshops, started going into schools, doing a lot of work with probation, started being an appropriate adult. We can't blame the police, but we can blame a lot of what the police do. Because there is police out there for you, but there is police that are against you. I know police that go on the road and they'll see one boy because he's got a pass, they target that one youth. And they're going to keep on targeting that one youth. The police is not for our black men. I have to say this fully. I don't care what other people want to tell you, what opinion. They do not. The system's here for our black men to fail. That's what the system's here to do. The black boys don't understand the worth, what they have. Because when a black boy starts wearing his trousers down, now a white boy's trying to do it, trying to do the same talk, the same slang as the black boy. But let me tell you something. It's going to be twice as harder for that black boy to get a job than the white boy, regardless. No, what your past, it does affect you. But even just being a black boy is harder. I speak to my little boys about, why do you lot want money so quick? A lot of the boys, they've got the excuse of, it's hard because I'm a black boy. Because when you're old, when you're younger, a lot of your parents say, you know, it's so hard when you're a black man, so they drilled it in. And some of them are just lazy. Some of them just want money quick. They don't want to work for it. But what we need to do is we need to get our youth into the position of how to become a boss the right way. We need to get parents, because remember, parents is one of the first teachers, but the system is the second teacher. Because your child can be perfect or at home. When he's on road, he's a different character. If you told my mum that her sons were doing certain things, she will swear blind they were never. Because sometimes you want to be oblivious. It's right in your face, but you want to believe, it's not my son. My son's got 9 GCSEs. All my brother have more than 10 GCSEs. Altogether, my brother's got 9 GCSEs. He was a lawyer. He was coming out to be a lawyer. He decided to stay off to be a lawyer and become a trapper. That's what he decided. It wasn't because my mum didn't educate him or my mum didn't put him into after things. My mum had 2 jobs, made sure she put him in every curriculum. He saw the elders outside and he wanted what they wanted to. He didn't want to work for it. He wanted it quick. He wanted it now. And that's what happens when the boys are. And you have to blame the parents. We don't talk about community or the police ain't doing what we're doing. We're not doing what we're doing. Because when we have events, why is the chairs empty? This event shouldn't be empty. It's not about the police. You need to remember, the white man's going to go home. His family's nice. Our family's the one that's destroyed. He don't care about us. The police is a job. Yeah, there's some officers that actually want good for the boys. Yeah, but there's some officers that want the boys to fail. They want to say the media is our downfall. The media they like stories when black boys kill each other. Come on, gangland. I did a thing against gangland. How come there was a boy in gangland, one of my friends, he's been doing mentoring for how long? They gave him a 5-minute clip. But the boys that were selling drugs, you gave them half an hour. The boys that were putting, but you showed, the most you showed of the white boy is his arse on gangland. But he's out there too. What about the white boys that are in gangs? The media doesn't show that, but there's a lot of white boys in gangs that want to be in gangs. But the media don't show that. They only show our black men when it's failed. What about the black boys that come out of jail and have businesses? They don't show that. They only want to show the negative. The media's not here for us. They're here to destroy us. That's what the media's here to do.
So let me actually ask Pastor, the other one. Oh, one of you, any of you. You, okay. Do you see this story from tragedy to triumph? So you spiritual leaders, you need to open the gates to this church for the young people to speak about these things. Because what is needed, this is a testimony. You see, with Jamila, she surprises me all the time. I mentor her most of the time. And she will call me, Caroline, this and that. She's so passionate about her organization. And it's so awesome that the kids, the youths, they will actually listen to her than you, the adult. You understand? So we thank you for help, literally open. Actually, thanks for Sister Yvette for doing this event. And I hope that you guys carry on, because there is people, youths, young people in the community that I can bring to you that will tell you I've been from tragedy to triumph. You understand? Right now I'm also mentoring a youth. He's 35 years old. He went to prison for life for killing someone, and he's just gotten out this year. So, and he's trying to, rehabilitate himself. So we need people like that in church to show that actually we can't get back our community that has been taken away from us. Can we go to the next slide, please? The last one. So the question is, can this end? Can gun and knife crime end? What does the Metropolitan Police think? Yeah. I'm going to ask the other one first. One of you, please answer.
Well, of course, anything's possible. Will it end anytime soon? I don't know. But if everyone works hard together, then of course.
Thank you for that answer.
Right, I just want to say something there. That's a very interesting question because how long is a piece of string? Yeah, it's as long as you want it to be. There are four corners to society. Yeah, you've got like the family, you've got the various communities, you have the economics of the community, yeah, and you have the politics of the community. Right? That's the environments within which all of our families have to live in. Okay. If it's a good family, the family will struggle and they will make it. If it's a family where only one person is trying and everybody else is just dragging that family down, it won't make it. What you need to understand is currently there are 243 active gangs across London. Why do you think these gangs exist? These gangs aren't just a bunch of football teams that went wrong, right? These gangs are part of the basically the infrastructure, the whole distribution network of the higher ups. I can't remember who it was that said it, but it was once said, no black man has ever made a gun, no black man owns a gun factory, no black man makes knives willingly whatsoever, right? So who's putting these things in our communities, you understand?
Exactly.
Right? Now, the reason why these weapons are there is because they are tools of oppression, right? You've got boys, in my day, if you was a so-called bad man, right, you'd run around with your little ratchet, or if you're lucky, a little Rambo knife, and yeah, you was a bad man. Now these guys are coming out with things that can kill you from over there, right? You understand me? They're pulling out big long knives. Is that not so uniform? Yeah? Right, fine. And so as a result, you have to understand what you're dealing with, yeah? You know, it goes from young people who are afraid because of stuff that's happening at schools. Beforehand, when we was younger, it used to be a thing, and I'm like a child of so much years old, but it was a thing where it used to be schools versus schools. Now it's the gangs within the schools. So you could go to a school, but because you're not in the right gang, right, you could get guys who go to your school, watch you getting beat up, stabbed, or whatever, and because you're not part of their gang, this is what the situation is, okay?
Very true.
And you need to understand all of these things and put all these things into context.
Yeah. Thank you. There's a lady over here who wants to. Absolutely. Yes. The other one first.
Yeah. I feel that we need to look into the families and I don't say it's too late for the older children, but you know what? It's the young ones that is coming up, the babies that is coming up, we have to educate.
Yes.
Yeah? Because they're the future. And I've got a 8 and 7-year-old grandchild, and I'm scared for their future because as time is going by, it is getting worse. So we need to educate the younger ones now.
Yeah, Jamila, and then that will be the last, I think. Oh, there's a lady there. Guys, we're going to have a question and answer session at the end. So,
one of the things that you have to look about as well, one of the things you have to look about is the fathers in the households, and the lack of fathers, even the men right now. Because since I've been doing this organization, there's too much women standing front.
Absolutely.
Where's all the men standing?
Very true.
Because this is what you need to remember. I'm saying what I'm saying to you is,
yes,
that's what I'm about to say.
The
not
men,
just,
yes.
Hold on, I'm not just saying men like as fathers, but I'm talking about men that need to step up. Because when we were young, it doesn't take one person to raise a child, it takes a village. So what about the men that, because when I was younger, my brother had my brother's dad used to take all of his friends football with him. He used to do things like the ones that don't have fathers on the weekend, he'll take all of them. That's where a lot of men stepped in, and that's why they had the kind of respect that they do have. And I feel like because men are not doing what they're supposed to do, not just fathers, men in general, you have an uncle that instead of coming to talk to the youth, he's coming to bruck them up instead, then that's where the issue lies, because it's emotional damage. That's where the issue starts.
Yeah, emotional traumas. Okay, so we're gonna, as I said, we're gonna have a question and answer session afterwards, because I'm very curious. I'm conscious of time. So can you please press the next video? So no, the actual video that just come on with the gun knife crime. I'm gonna leave you with this video for now, and then I'll be coming back later for us to have a discussion about the video and next steps. Yep, that video. That one. Now, the people in this clip, some of the children, I know them. I know their parents, and I've worked with some of them. I think they're bringing it up.
Brother and sister, together we'll make it through. Oh, yeah. Someday a spirit will take you and guide you there. I know you've been hurting, but I've been waiting to be there for you. And I'll be there just helping you out whenever I can. Everybody's free. Everybody's free. Oh, yeah.
Listen, this one's for all the ones showing love. It's appreciated. Life's crazy, man. And listen to the lyrics. Look.
Don't fall asleep too soon. The angels can wait for a moment.
They can wait for a moment.
With me, don't fall asleep too soon.
I won't.
The angels can wait for a
Listen to the words. Look, don't cry for me when I'm gone. No pain and wasting tears. Our time will come one day, and I'm just confronting my fears. Though it's not really a fear, it's more like a destiny. Sometimes I sit and wonder, is this life really for me? Cause I've seen, heard, felt and done. I hope you're proud of where I've come. You see me grow and help me through, and there is no repaying you. I'm here and I feel like I'm delaying you, betraying you. And when I'm gone, I hope that someone's saving you. I'm gonna stay, listen. I'm gonna try not to. They can wait, man. I swear.
Don't fall asleep too soon. The angels
I'm gonna hold on.
for a moment.
I wanna see your face every time I come home, cause I can't leave you like this in this cold world alone. But in this life we're living, who knows when I'll be gone. I don't wanna leave you with what ifs held in for long. To the well, there's too much to prove.
You can stop it now.
Sometimes I wonder what I really have to.
So, that's our statistics. All of them are black, unfortunately. And so, we need to question ourselves what is going on in the system. Like David Lammy said, there's a disproportionate situations going on in the system. And as I said, we will have a question and answer session afterwards. I would like to give other speakers a chance. Thank you very much. My name is Caroline Namagabi. My contact details are there. If anyone want to speak to me afterwards, I'll be happy to take on your requests.
Thank you, Caroline, we have a special poem by Sister Thompson.
Good evening, everyone. This poem is entitled A Mother's Cry.
How many tears does a mother cry? I saw her face from up close, calm, but yet so broken. Her lines have gone deep and deeper. I made a gaping hole. When the world was already sunny, ours stayed dark, gray and black and crimson. She cried in my arms. I fought back mine. Her tears run like a river of endless loss, and in shame I hung my head for all the hell I put her through, for the choices I have made, for the pain I have caused, a good woman in many years. Every day as evening sets, I hear her cry in silence. If I could go back and turn the arms of every clock, I'd go back to the day, to the hour, to the second I made her smile. How many tears does my mother cry? Tears, more tears, many tears.
So now we have some mothers who've been through the gun and knife crime, and they want to share with us how they went through, how they felt. You can join them. Oh, yes. Who wants to start?
Hello, good evening. Thank you for this event today, to hear the voice of the victims. Why are you down there? Oh, she's coming. Okay, Caroline, where have you gone? Caroline, I felt your speech and what you present is very powerful. But as a mother who's buried a child, what's been missed out here is grief. And the grief, Mother Nature didn't make us mothers. They didn't build us to bury our children from murder. We're not made for that. And if you lose a child to an illness or an accident, it's bearable. When it's murder, that grief, there's no way over it, there's no way under it, there's no way around it, there is no way. It is a disease, and it kills us. It doesn't just affect the mother, it has a ricocheting effect through an entire family, generations, and a community. So the grief does not get addressed enough. Victim support that's paid for by this government and has been from way back for as long as I can remember, and an organisation called SAMS. Now, I as a victim, if I was to call victim support at 5 o'clock Friday night or 2 o'clock today, this afternoon, you're going to get an answer machine. A victim doesn't want to hear an answer machine. A victim never knows when they're going to have a good day or a bad day. Like today, your video, powerful as it is, I couldn't bear to watch it. I can't watch another mother's pain because I know the pain, I know the trauma. There's just so much left undone. So there are groups out there who are going to tackle being there for the victims. One of them is this lady here. We need to be able to reach out to these. There's so many groups. Where's all the groups today? This has been well broadcasted, this project today. Yet there's hundreds of groups just in Peckham. Where are you all? Everybody should be supporting one another. I find it very sad. I know the Metropolitan Police are here. I think it's bad that Operation Trident is not here, or somebody's not here to give the appropriate stats on the murders, not just in Peckham. It's not just a Peckham problem. It's not just a London problem. It is an international problem. And the way I dealt with it back in the day when my son was killed, I couldn't bear the grief. I was broken, my kids were broken, and the only way I could handle it is to fight back. And to fight back, there was nobody here in London or in the UK to fight with. So I went to New York, and I met Mothers Against Guns in New York, where this originated from. And they called a march in New York, and it was the Million Mothers Day March. And let me tell you people, there was a million mothers there. Yet you call a march in London, you're lucky if you get 20 people. So what I'm saying to people now, please don't wait till it happens to you. Don't wait to be another sadistic, because that's what we're called, or another raving mother who's going to just full of grief. We're not full of grief, we're broken.
Our child is gone. It cannot be brought back. And it's for the grace of God that I stand here today. But I went to a march recently in memory of somebody, and on that march, I wasn't well, but I decided I'm going to go from the beginning of this march to the end. And I was so gutted for that family, because they worked hard and arranging this march. And there was a handful of people, no community leaders were there. There was no police, there was nobody to police it. The family was left to police it. And that family today are in this hole, and they stand so powerful for every victim in the United Kingdom, race or creed, for any murder. Doesn't matter how it's going to be. I tell you now, this lady's going to be here. It's an honour for me to know her. But on the back of knowing her, she's gone through traumatic pain. But you know what? It takes courage, great courage, to do what you have done. And I know how hard it is for you. And it's early stages for this family. They have marched, they've protested, doors have been shut. They're kicking them back open. But the victims have no say. The people who have the say are the perpetrators. We don't have no say. There's nothing there to protect us, but you can protect a perpetrator. If you are a perpetrator in a court of law, you've got more rights than the victims. The victims are slaughtered, and the perpetrators, human rights, human rights, human rights. Legal system. No. The minute you pick up a knife or a gun and you take somebody's child, or these hit and runs, or these acid attacks, all these things that are happening, you haven't got no human rights no more. You only got God to answer to. The only one person you can answer to is God. And people say prison's not the answer. I'm sorry, I don't agree. Life should mean, if you take a life, life should mean life. This is what happens in the States, and it has an impact. If we don't do it in this country now, it's going to keep going and going and going. The sentence for murder in this country is appalling. In fact, it is. They don't care. This is why it continues. They don't care. There's nothing to fear. But the first time a judge who has the power's already there to do it. Young man or young woman, whoever you may be, you took a life and you will spend the rest of your life in jail. Watch how quick to put down the guns and the knives. Watch how quick to do it. Because we fought for a 5-year minimum sentence in 2004. And in 2004, the 5-year minimum sentence was brought in. Supported by the Met, by the Home Office, by Tony Blair. Say no more about him. It was brought in, but it wasn't used the way we intended for it to be used. 5 years for possession of a firearm in a public place should have meant 5 years, no exception to the rule, no beating around the bush. 5 years starts on the day you get your sentence, no remission, no parole. But they don't use it. So I'm coming back. Mothers Against Guns are coming back with fire. And I don't want no 5 years minimum sentence. I'm going for 10 minimum for possession of a weapon in a public place. Because if you've got it on you, you intend to use it. And who wants to fight me? Fight me. You tried to fight me already, and I don't care. You killed me already the day you killed my child. So you can't do me no harm anymore. So I'm telling you now, we're coming back. That is what we're going for. A 10-year minimum sentence, a ban and a make and the sale of the transfer of firearms into the United Kingdom. Why do we want them? Where are they coming from? We need to find that, and that's what we need to work with the police for again. Where are these firearms coming from? Could the officers please stand up at the back, please? I'm not targeting you personally. I'm just asking you a question. Can anybody in the Metropolitan Police or the firearms unit tell anybody here this evening where do the guns come from? Well, we don't buy them in the shops. They don't get sold on the street corner. But it's a multi-billion-pound industry. Now, if you knew somebody was doing fraud or selling drugs, you're going to cane them people down. But selling firearms is a multi-billion-pound industry in this country. And there are white people sitting in their big houses, in the posh house. They don't care about our kids that are dying. They don't care. But they're making the money from the sale, the make, and the transfer of the firearms into this country. The biggest problem we have is the reactivated firearms. I'm sure these officers at the back can confirm. A reactivated firearm has a point of entry, but there's no point of exit. So when the bullet enters a victim, it ricochets, and it don't stand a chance. But if it's a real firearm, there's a point of entry, there's a point of exit. So why do we want these weapons of mass destruction on our streets, are on sale in our country. In the shooting ranges, people think it's easy. No, it's not. Some of their guns have found their way onto our streets and killed our children. People think air weapons can't kill. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. I know of an 11-year-old child who was shot in the eye and died from an air weapon. So we don't see no need for guns. I don't know how we're going to tackle the knives. This is down to this lady here. I don't know how anybody is going to tackle the sale of knives in this, even just in Peckham alone. If you walk up the road and buy 20, I know they're going to question you. You're not going to get questioned. Somebody addressed the stop and search again, having a black and white police officer as the pastor. I agree with that, but there has to be trust from the youth, from the police, and from the police to the youth, because they will get accused of racism, and they will play on it and play on it and play on it. So it's tit for tat. It's tit for tat. But we need to stand up now as a nation, as people. We have to say enough is enough. So when the next march is called, please don't let it be 20 people. It's just not right. Even if you haven't lost a loved one, because you care for your community, your children, your grandchildren. Like this one lady said, I'm terrified for my grandkids. I don't know what kind of future my grandkids are going to have. And one of them is only 4 months old, and it breaks my heart every day when I see him smile. How long will I see that smile for? What's he going to grow up into, and what's he going to be? Sorry, sweetheart. Oh, Unity at Brixton, yeah. Yeah, that was fine. Honestly, Brixton, Unity was brilliant. I'm on about the march that took place after that.
That is before. No. I'm going to say that. Give me a minute.
No, but there is loads of organisations, and they're all out there. Where are they?
That's what I'm saying. You did that, and it didn't happen.
Since them events, I've not seen Patrick. He's disappeared.
That's what I mean.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's real.
You get a big hype up, then it just goes down.
Yeah, everyone was hyping up. I'm going to go on the streets. I'm going to march. I'm going to get everyone out
Unity first, when they set it up.
Do you know what? I spoke on Patrick's event. Remember me?
Yep.
And so I've been in communication with Patrick, and I think he's got a lot going on. But I think there's too much organizations, hence why I created a think tank. We all have to come underneath one umbrella.
That's what I was just saying.
And start implementing
if we all
what's
work
going
together.
on. There's too much anger, and the anger needs to be resolved first, and the oppression.
You want to take this? All right. I've said my name.
Hello, my name's Angeline. I represent an organisation called Violent Crime Help and Referral Service. We have recently set up this service mainly because of my own personal experiences. The march that we mentioned last year was the march for the death of my cousin Luther Edwards. Luther was killed on the 29th of July 2016 after attending a boxing match with his sister and the mother of his disabled 13-year-old daughter. They witnessed Luther killed in front of them. A multiple amount of individuals killed Luther, and until this day we're still waiting for justice. The march was very much focused on Luther's case and the exposure that victim families are being ignored. We never got a referral to victim support for over a year. My cousin witnessed her brother being killed in front of her. You would think that organisations, intermediaries, somebody would have engaged. We begged for help. We got nothing. Yeah? I just make that clear that the reason why I'm set up this service is very much close to my own heart. Yeah, and it's a fight that we're still doing. But what I do know is that for every day we hear of knife crime, there is a family that is a victim. And it's not specific to area, it's not specific to race, but there is no help. Yeah? And what I want to do is demonstrate that there is no help. We want to engage with organisations that are doing good work. There are families that I've met that have children that are affected by knife crime. They've lost someone. Them kids are confused. They don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how, that some of them don't want to talk to authorities. It's not just the angle of education and prevention. And I get why everyone's focused on that, but what they're missing the link is that victims' families have a part to play in this. Because if you don't get the engagement from them and they're not getting the right support, that has a domino effect as well. Luther was 32 when he died. He weren't no young person. The people involved in Luther's attack were not young people. This year alone, I've seen adults die. And it's adults killing adults as well as kids killing kids. What are we going to do about it? My organisation is only there to make sure that we make a connection between organisations that best fit their situation, that can help them going forwards. But what I'm saying to you is, as organisations that we stand up, like Unity First, like a lot of them that I've seen, they talk, but I don't see any action. I don't see us engaging. The government talked about they want communities and the Metropolitan Police to come together to address this issue. Why? Because we had a number of deaths on the New Year's Eve. They forget about the 90-odd that was dead last year and the year before that. Yeah? The Metropolitan Police alone cannot address this problem. We know this. We've said this today. But what we need is organisations with their different hats and their different angles to join forces, work together. Yeah? I've approached so many organisations talking about our service, and what I get back is, well, what do you want from us? I want to understand what you do, so that when I've got a family or a situation, that they can be pointed and engaged from the offset, before it spirals out of control, before people try to kill themselves because of their grief. Because as Lucy rightly said, grief comes in many angles, yeah? Like, I'm here today and I can see a strong community. I come from Croydon. There isn't such a strong community, but I know the gang culture is rife up there. And I know a lot of, I know my colleague Tracy Prescott here today from Enough is Enough. Enough is Enough was the only organisation that engaged with me and my family a year on after Luther's death, and they supported us in the march to bring the awareness of both knife crime and Luther's case to the forefront. But Tracy comes from a borough of Enfield. Now, we both come from two different angles where knife crime is at its worst. And I can honestly say, when we talk to organisations within the London area, there's only some that are coming forward. Only some of them want to promote our service. It's a free service. I paid for this off my own back. It ain't something that I'm looking to get anything out of, any exposure on. I want families to get help. That's all we're trying to do.
Have you finished?
I think she wanted to talk. Do you want to talk?
You sure?
Yeah.
My name is Ifat Rizvi. I lost a daughter in 2003 to gun crime after less than 4 minutes leaving a police station. People, when they see the television, they do the way the media addresses a murder. People in the community think that, oh God, they're going to get justice. I'm going to talk real here. I thought, right, I was going to get justice and the police are going to turn every single stone to get that justice. However, what people do not see, the reality of what the victims' families have to do to get a bit of justice. 75% of Black and Asian families do not get justice. Their loved ones' cases are put on the shelf as cold cases. There is a legal framework, but a mother who has never ever thought that her child is going to get murdered, do they look in the law of murder and the process? My daughter lost her life to gun crime, being an Asian girl, and the person who was sitting next to her was Mark Williams, Afro-Jamaican. Had that been, she lost her life to gun crime, and the people who took her life were white UK males. And I didn't even know that my daughter had been shot and murdered. And the media reported Yardie shooting. When it came down to investigation, had me and my family not put our foot down and demanded meetings, demanded answers, the one person who was convicted for the murder of my child, I don't think we would have got that. We were told there were going to be further people on trial. Soon after, one person who was a dog's body was convicted, They didn't have no evidence for the other people. I used to be a frontline senior practitioner. I used to do child protection. I'm not the same mother what I used to be. I used to think that I will get justice because when a child is murdered, it's responsibility of the Queen to get justice for you. But you know, you don't even get a condolence card from the Queen. But what they do is, without telling you, they can take your child and say, oh, we own this body now, and we can rip this child apart the way we want to. This is what the victims' families go through. And I'm going to talk about you addressing trauma. Soon after, I couldn't even believe that my daughter had gone to the police station to resolve a situation of a car she had bought. And had a white girl been shot and a white boy been shot, and the perpetrator was black boys, I tell you, it would have been hell let loose. But they put the cover on a dustbin, boom, it didn't report. In a way, I'm glad, because I am still fighting and trying to get the system to address that murder. Because you only get let down after let down after let down. The legal framework is there. The legal framework is there, but you know, it's well abused. When I was in the trial in the Old Bailey, I could not believe how unbalanced it was. When the person who got convicted for the murder of my child, right, he was sentenced to 20 years. Right, that's life sentence for murder and attempted murder. When Letitia and Charlene were shot 3 months prior to my child, the boys who went on trial for their murder, they were all black boys. They got 35 years. Soon after I lost my child, I was broken. You talk about trauma. The situation here will never get resolved because I've heard accountability. I've seen blame. But the one thing that is missing here, and the reason why this gun crime and knife crime will not get resolved, is ownership. The ownership. 20, 30 years ago, look at it. When we used to go to school, we had to be at school at 8:30 to be in the class at 9 o'clock. We could not go out lunchtime. We had to be school at 4 o'clock, right? And the ownership, what I'm talking about, is when the 1989 Children's Act came out, right? When they were doing the assessments out there, they were not looking at the need of the child, they were looking at the wanting of a child. Who took the discipline out? There's a reason that every child has two parents. Not all parents, whether Asian, black, white, are abusers. Right? They took all the discipline out from the hands of parents, all the discipline out of the hands of the schools, right? And it went in the hand of local authority. Who damaged our children? Yeah. And when you're talking about stop and search, hey, whose responsibility is stop and search? When the police are receiving cutbacks, they want them to do stop and search. That is the responsibility of a mother, a father. Let the police go and address crime accordingly. Please don't disguise stop and search to go after black boys and put them in the jail for drug dealings. Who has converted our boys street level? Who? We've got to address it. I did not want to go down the route of this, but the core of the problem is racism from education system. Where are the inequalities? When are the equal education going to be addressed properly? Children, since losing my daughter, I could not believe that somebody can pick up a gun and take somebody's life. And I had to go on the street to find out why these young people, right, are picking up guns and knives and taking lives. They don't know what they're doing. I did find out, and young people say, the power rules by the gun. The government rules by the gun. And I did say to the young people, the power rules by the gun, and they are powerful, but your power will be going back behind bars. Because of when young people go to school, the inequality of teachers, they put it in the minds of our young boys that you are going to end up in prison. You're not going to do anything. They don't get confident. They don't receive any confidence that they are able to do something. We have got to see it for what it is. 2003, gun crime was very high. And I was in a shock. Lucy was the mother who came to me, and she could relate, and I could relate to what she was saying. Because the one thing that nobody has is empathy when a mother has lost a child to murder. Because, empathy means you have to put yourself in that place of that mother. And when you have got children and you try to empathize with the mother, as soon as it comes, for you to realize, if my child was shot, you can't even imagine it. No. It won't happen to me, it happens to others. Right? But now, look at it. In 2003, there were 20 of us mothers. We mothers got together. We started addressing gun crime. We did a campaign. There was 20 mothers at that time. Right? Gun crime did come down. You know why? Because we spoke the truth. We spoke it how it was. We spoke it how we felt. And the young people, it touched them. They did start putting their guns down. But however, younger groups started picking up the knives. And you know what? Knife crime has grown. Right? In 2003, 2004, recently I heard that young boys, not only young boys, it's young girls as well. Young girls are also picking up knives. They'll pick up knives, they'll deliver. Young boys, instead of trainers, now they want designer knives. You said, is this gun, knife, and knife crime ever going to? Yes, it can be done. But if the system takes ownership in regarding to let young people be young people, let the discipline be in the hands of parents, let the school have their discipline in their place, let them communicate in the best interest of a child. A child does need discipline, a child does need telling off, a child does need to have a curfew to be at home at 9 o'clock. No, you have to go out and you don't come home till 11 o'clock when there's no youth centers. The cutbacks, and you know what, really speaking, it doesn't even cost that much. Yeah.
The thing is, when it comes to a parent not sending a child to school, the parent gets fined. They get taken to court. But when the school suspend a child, right, what happens to the school? Why isn't a child who's suspended or expelled, why don't they have a youth resource, right, to put that child for some special, to work with the child to see why this child has suspended? Why? What is going on?
No, but they do have that. They do
You
have
know?
that.
Can I say one thing to you, darling? You did address trauma. Soon after I lost my child, I did ask our investigating officers, right, from a flying squad, is there any trauma counseling? Because at that time, I wasn't looking at myself, I was looking at my family. I was looking at my husband, I was looking at my sons. Because losing a daughter, my oldest daughter, she was just 25, right? It ripped my stomach apart, but I had to hold in. But you know what? The investigating officer said, Ifad, there's nothing in this country. I went to cruise. They want to give me bereavement counseling when I hadn't even got in terms that I had lost my child. I didn't even have justice. What is there for victims' families? And you know what? The sentencing, when the investigating officers do the investigating in line with the legal framework, right, the sentencing will be right. Not that for murder you will get 9 years. Right? My daughter, the person who got convicted for my daughter's murder got 20 years, and the judge said 20 years, no tariff. And you know what? 7 years later, if I hadn't been clued up, 7 years later, probation comes to me and says, oh, we are going to let this person out on parole. You know what I said? I said, you do that and you see what I do. Go and read the judges summing up, right? And what is the purpose of a judge sentencing when you are going to, right, let a person out? And you know what the judge said? 20 years, but that doesn't mean to say after 20 years you're going to get parole. There are not so many parents are not so clued up. There's so many people who get let out of prison, right? And the other thing is, they get let out without being rehabilitated for them to come out become bigger criminals. And you know what? I had to, like I said, I haven't had justice for my daughter. I had to go to university to do law, to learn the legal frame, for me to be able to understand, because when you haven't done law, you do not know how to address issues properly. I had to go and do a degree in law to learn the legal framework.
So I could flying colours.
Right? For me to be able to address my daughter's murder.
Can I just say, now that's you taking accountability. What parents need to do, they need to take accountability. I understand the trauma, but it's how you deal with the trauma. I've got a parent right now that their son got killed, and they've opened up a project called the Nicholas Project. She actually employs me to do workshops for her foundation and her project. So it's how you as parents take accountability that
Darling,
what you've just done, you've just taken accountability to go back to school and educate yourself so that you can fight the cause for the community. And I do hope the tools that you've taken from uni, you bring them back to the community and you will not privatize the tools, because that's the problem we've got with our black ethnic minorities that are professionals. What they do, they privatize the tools. The tools needs to be brought back into the community.
What you're saying is so right. I'm taking accountability. Yes. And they say the hardest thing one parent can do when they're going through this sort of trauma is to try to get justice for yourself. Yeah. I am already on that path, and I am in a lot of pain. But if I can achieve that, I have already done a law reform if that works, I will be submitting that to the House of Parliament.
Fantastic.
I would. You want to say a few? Right. This. Yeah.
Thank you so much. There is quite a lot of things to do here, but I thank you for taking responsible for. At this particular time, may I ask our friends, the police, to come. Who wants to speak? Thank you. I do not see the police as, I see them as our friends. Thank you. So who wants to speak?
Didn't know we were going to do a speech today at all or anything like that, so as I said, not prepared. I'd like to thank everyone that's spoken today. I found it quite inspirational, and I've learnt a lot. Some things were, quite negative, but I take an open mind and learn from anyone I can. We're from Peckham LPT, which is, we deal with the Yellow Brick Estate, Goldsmith and stuff like that. To help tackle this issue, we do stop and search. We do weapon sweeps, and we do warrants when we, smash down people's doors, and that's intelligence-led. What I'd like to ask is if the community could have more faith in us and give us more intelligence so we, as a tool, can do what we need to do and try and tackle this more effectively. What I like. I like to say, I've only been a police officer for about 4 years, so I can't speak for everyone, and I'm not everywhere. As I said, I'm only in Peckham. I haven't seen any racism myself.
Okay, can I say, no, hold on. You haven't seen it. You haven't seen it, which is fair enough, but would you say that there's institutionalized racism within your workplace?
I haven't seen so.
You haven't
Okay.
seen so?
No.
Well, can I say to you that I used to do truancy patrol with your officers from Woolworth Road, and I'm telling you, there's times when I went on truancy patrol and they'd be doing things to people to stir black people to be arguing with them, and I witnessed that, and I could tell you the police officer's name if I wanted to. It happens, and it's real. And once you acknowledge it, then we can move forward. If you're not acknowledging it, we can't move forward.
What I'd like to say is, as I said, I haven't seen it personally, so I can't acknowledge something.
You haven't lived in England
seen.
at all then?
Sorry?
You haven't lived in England at all?
That's where I live. I grew up in Streatham.
What I'm saying is, if you watch the TV, you see it. We're not blind to it. Let's stop acting. It's here.
What? Okay.
Fair enough, you might have not seen it. I had an incident in
Jamila,
House Hill.
quiet, okay. Yeah? Now, we have not brought them here to be attacked.
No, but we're not attacking him.
No, okay.
We're not attacking him.
But just listen to them. When they finish, we can...
Okay, but can I just say my quick thing quickly?
Let him finish, and then you can have your point.
Apologies, you can speak. Sorry?
Okay. No, sorry. I was in House Hill the other day, and one of your police officers, one of the boys, he ran. He shouldn't have ran, but he ran. Whatever, he ran. He had a hold on his head. 4 of your men jumped out. They was aggressive to all of them. Your policeman turned around and said he shouldn't have dealt it with like that. The incident, the week before, a white boy had a hood on his head. He ran with the same group of black boys. He was not targeted the same way the group of boys was targeted. So we said, hold on, you're the same officer from last week that targeted the white boy in that way. How come you're targeting the black boy like that? The policeman said, it's just because he is known to us. So he's known to you, that's why you target him. What about the white boy? Because he's known to you as well. Why did you target him as well? We can't say that racism doesn't happen. We see when a black boy goes and he gets stopped and searched, the way you drop him on the floor, the way you looked over him, yeah, the way that people have to record it, you don't want us to record, yeah, it is racism. You know it is. Like, let's stop. This is what's the problem with us in our community. We're oblivious. We brush everything on the carpet. We don't want to be real. Racism does happen. In the police system, it does happen. So let's not target it. Because once you've got the black boys in custody, what are you doing to them? What are you doing to them?
Could I just add, from the last custody, it's got CCTV and sound recognition, so everything is covered. As I said, I haven't seen racism. I can't comment on what you've seen, because I wasn't there. What I can say is I do get called racist on a regular basis. What people don't know is, my wife is mixed race. Her father's from Liberia. My sergeant, he's from Nigeria. And all of us are victims. We get called racist regularly. And I think what I said in the beginning is people just need to work together and try and tackle this head on. And some officers may be able to deal with things better and be more effective communicators, but that is, part of training. And if anyone has an issue with an individual officer, then they should speak to them, and see if they can resolve it.
Two questions I want to ask you. As you mentioned racism, you don't see racism. You have heard today that we have said the core of the problem is racism, inequality in service delivery. And the second question I would like to ask you, how do you identify who to stop and search?
Okay. Sorry, I can answer the second question.
Yeah,
what's the
you were
first
saying
one?
the first one was about racism. You said it's not, we're not racism. It's not racism. How can you, what evidence, or you're a white UK police officer, I'm Asian and the black people here, right? And we are clearly saying the core of the problem is racism, right? How a white UK girl is treated by the police officers differs to the way that the Asian or black boys are treated.
If I can just come in here.
So,
my name's Shane. I work with Seb on the Peckham local policing team. As you can see, I'm a police community support officer, so I'm not a fully fledged police officer. In regards to your question, look at the population in Peckham. Majority of the people that live in Peckham, what would you say they are?
They're African Caribbeans.
Okay.
Right. I know.
What I'm saying is that is the I know, but that is the population mostly that we deal with.
Can I say one thing? I mean, Peckham, Brixton, say Streatham, Norwood, there's a high ratio of black families living there, right? And in Surrey, there's a high ratio of white families living there, right? Now, after school, say if there's high ratio of black families living in these areas, when the schools finish, obviously the black boys are going to walk in groups, right, to go home, right? The same way in white areas, white boys will be walking in groups to go home. So why is it, right, the groups of black boys walking home, normal school children, are identified as gangs, and white boys in a white area walking in a group, they're okay. They're friends. Why is it black boys gangs and white boys in a group friends? Why? This is something I'd like to understand, right? Because stop and search mainly occurs where there's high ratio of black and Asian people. It does not occur where there's high ratio of white UK children, right? So the thing is, do you agree with me that if a group of black boys coming after school right? They are identified as gangs, but group of white boys walking from school to home are identified as friends.
I'd like to think that everyone associating together would be friends. Obviously, I don't know where this gang sort of logo has come from. As I said, in my time, I've been doing this job for 14 years. I've never seen it as bad as it is, and yeah.
Let's deal with this thing in a different way so we can move forward. Officer, you are on the beat all the time. In your experience, is gun and knife crime up in Peckham?
I couldn't say
in London.
It's, gun and knife crime's gone up or down. It'd be on the statistics. I haven't got them to hand, I'm afraid. Okay, thank you.
It's gone up 92%. Now, but do you see it on your beat, on the beat?
I can only say what we're doing. A lot of youths are carrying knives. Obviously, knife crime and gun crime is also associated to drugs. We have a problem that we're trying to resolve and tackle it as best as we can.
Okay, so let's deal with this sister's question. How do you, if you see black boys with hoodie going around and you see white boys with hoodie around, how do you tackle the two of them?
I speak to people.
Okay.
And say, introduce myself, see what they're doing, and it's down to behaviour. We have grounds, it might be intelligence-led, depending where they are, etc.
Okay.
No, it's all together.
All right. This is dealing with the solution, yeah, because you said gun and whatever crime is. This is dealing with the solution, yeah, or trying to deal with the solution. I'm asking you a question. You say that gun crime and knife crime is help. What are you doing, like, where it comes to the schools? Are you liaising with, what have you built up? That's what I'm trying to say.
It's funny you asked that, actually. I got asked to, what are you there, Shane? What school is it?
The Peckham Academy.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't know what school it was.
Harrison Academy.
I've got asked, that some students actually came into Peckham Police Station last week, and we showed them what we do briefly, the custody, although it's disused in Peckham, we showed them custody, and had a chat with them. And showed them our tools of the trade, i.e. handcuffs, asp and stuff like that. And whilst I was with them, I tried to educate them what a lot of people have spoken about today, that it's not about fast money. You need to do things slowly, do things the right way, peer pressure, etc. So we if anyone knows of any youths that want to engage with us, we've got our email address, and feel free.
Exactly. Okay, we need to make some progress here, and I think the essence of this meeting is to engage, and also try and live here as fully understood the issues that we've discussed here, and also some of us can, because it can happen to anybody here, and so, officer, when we are here, I know you are just on the front line. Maybe we need to speak to the boss himself, because, but, no, I'm not saying you're justified. Well, good. You remember in the police, there are ranks. You're dealing with the guy on the beat who may not have answers. So you can really ask him practical questions, what he does, what he's seen.
All I know is, in my 14 years of doing this job, there has been, and since I've been doing this job, there have been police officers in the schools. I was one, as I said, I'm a community support officer. My job was to go into primary schools, do talks around personal safety and stuff like that. So I know for a fact officers are in the schools. They're doing, in order to combat knife crime, they do workshops. They also do Operation Arches. And what that is literally they set up the arches at the entrance of the schools, okay, unannounced. And it's a condition of entry. So pupils with the teachers and the head teachers will go through the arch. Obviously, if it bleeps, then they give their bag to the teacher, and then obviously that is searched. So that is ongoing. Okay. What one of our sergeants for the lane team, Richard Warren, has introduced recently is we're doing community weapon sweeps. Now what that is, for these people that don't know, a group of community residents are coming out with police officers and ourselves to the areas that we found. I'll be honest with you, we found a lot of knives out there. Some of the residents that we worked with on this community weapon sweep found them as well, and some of the knives were shocking. Most of these knives ain't being bought from shops. They're from home, from the kitchen knives. And that's what we've got to look into as well. All right?
Okay. How long are we going to, how much time do we need now?
Working.
And can you just fill out the form that you have in your possession while you are sitting down?
What I've done as well, I've brought along some contact cards as well. As I said, I don't cover this area, but I've got some contact cards for the Peckham local policing team. So I'll leave them with one of the pastors, and for everyone who wants a contact card. As I said, I don't cover this area, but I'm happy to answer any questions. If I don't know the answer, I will forward it on to the relevant person, okay, and hopefully get the answer for you. All right?
I'd just like to add, apologies, we haven't got all the answers, and I know a lot of people could be asking many more questions. If anyone wants to ask questions, please speak to the borough commander, and he can give you probably a lot fuller answer than we have. Can I?
Hold on. I can't hear. This. Okay, so summary. Do you want to summarize what she's just said so that everybody else can be a part of it?
What I'd like to say as well is, obviously, I know a lot of people have asked loads of questions, etc., and it's about trust and building bridges. It is difficult, really hard, because I know there's a lot of, people don't trust, both sides, etc., like that. We're here, as I said, we're from Peckham local policing team. If anyone wants to engage with us, no youths that can come with you to engage with us, or anything like that, football, whatever you want to do, let us know and we're happy to accommodate.
Okay. So basically, in summary then, you're suggesting a corporation working with within the community, within individuals, with the schools, to catch it at an early stage in order to help to direct it in youth centers.
If I can,
Okay, so
if I can kindly answer that question, the Metropolitan Police. Yeah.
hold on, let him answer.
That's why, if I can come in on that, if I can come in, exactly.
Okay. All right. Okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. Just gonna, because of time, I do want to say that the suggestion about the community center, don't forget the fact that there is also churches that can actually provide their centers, but there needs to be a coming together of the entire community, in order to facilitate that. So, we just have time for.
Yeah, I think there will be. Officer, thank you very much for coming. I know you're on the front line. You are the one to be shot, so don't get worried when we shoot you. But we'll do that in faith.
There's no shooting in here. No shooting.
No shooting here. No shooting. Now, whether you are parents, always feel the pain. And the essence of the meeting, why we have the program here, is that the church also plays a part.
Hold on 1 second, please. He's trying to close it.
We as a church plays a part in the community as well. When people are hurting, we need to find where they can go, where they can find support. When the incident happened with Yvette, it was important that we were there. From one to finish, from the court, from the hospital to the magistrate, to the Crown Court, through sentencing, I was there with her, and also there are other members here who were with her. But it is important to know the support that you can get from the community in which you belong to. The most important thing which you need to understand, it may not have happened to you before, but when it happened to Yvette, we have to be very strong, because there are things which will come out which are not really what it ought to be. The first thing was, instead of the police trying to help us, some of them were against us. Because then we found information which was going to the press, was quite different from what we know. And we had to begin, while we are mourning for the loss of Javari, we are also fighting the police to protect our name and all the rest. So the trauma side of it is not very, very easy to deal with. But as a church, I can say that we do provide the support that is necessary. The church is a place where there are no knives, there are no guns in the church. But unfortunately, society is also turning its back on how effective the church can play in the community. You're not allowed to say the name Jesus on the radio or on the telly. We used to have a parking slot here where, as a church, we enjoy the facilities. They're taken all away from us, as though we don't just exist. But we do provide services in the community as well. And therefore, each one of us need to be supported. And the support comes not from the pastor, but also from all ourselves in the church. Because when one person suffers, then all of us need to rally behind and do that as well. I can say that I learned a lot from that incident, from the police to the hospital to all kinds of organizations that we were dealing with. It is not easy not to have that support. And Yvette has survived today because of the support that she got. I remember when she called me that Sabbath morning, I immediately went into a joke. Little did I know that it wasn't a joke, but it was very serious. We need each other in church, but also outside. There's no doubt about it. Because you don't know when something is going to happen to you. Two things happen when these things happen. There are those who find out about you just to laugh at you. There are those who are really interested about what is going on in your family. And we got to stand together with people who are hurting. Christ said, mourn with those who mourn, and also laugh with those who laugh. This is why we are here. And I think I can say from my heart that I found a friend, and the support was very necessary. It worked both ways, but we were there for her. Yvette was baptized in November, and she was hurrying me, Pastor, I need to be baptized. I didn't know why it was. But when the incident happened 3 months after, it began to make sense to me that this church then provided the support that she requires. And each one of us need to find the support where we can get it, because nobody stands alone, and no one can handle the issues that comes. We wept in court during sentencing. We had to go back again for appeal. We had to weep. And so this is what the church is there for. And I hope that after this event, you and I will remain strong, but also look out for those who need help in the church and help them. So on behalf of Yvette and also those who are here, I want to say that pastoral support or spiritual support is very important, because each one of us needs someone to support us in these trying times. The church has a role to play, and Pastor, you've seen what happened. Perhaps that would then give you an idea what needs to follow. We did bring the police here once. We brought the borough commander himself here. And in fact, he had more trouble than these junior ones who were here, because he got ripped off, not ripped apart. And when he left this place, he understood the feeling, the sentiments of the community as well. The system, we can criticize it. When we buried Juvari, my statement was, I'm here to work with the police. I'm not against them. When I need them, I will go to them. And that's how I believe it is. There are bad ones among them, but there are good ones among them as well. And we need to identify how we can tap into into that resource to help us. I'm glad my sister went to do law, and once you do law, you begin to understand the system better. And not everyone may be able to do law, but we all can help each other in these situations. If there's a match, let's support the match. Don't just sit down and say your Christian duty is just, oh, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist and I only come to church and that's it. That's our downfall because too many of us don't get involved in anything. I'll give you an example. This is not part of the presentation, but when the government was consulting on the same-sex marriage, none of us wrote anything, made any suggestion to the government. I asked at Brixton, how many of you have made anything? Nobody. I did. All right? But if you don't engage your community, you don't do anything, all you come is to come to church on Sabbath and worship, then what is the value of our existence here? We need to engage with our community. We need to ensure that, I'm not saying we should compromise, but we need to engage with our community. We need to know what is going on, how best we can address that. Because our children and your children do go through difficulties. And the church, unfortunately, is a place where we can't talk about so many things. But we become, I can say from my heart, we become heavenly good and earthly useless. Because we don't engage in it. All we do, perhaps, is to fight among ourselves and leave things that need to be done undone. We need, as a church, to be relevant in our community. Where people are hurting, we should be there for them. If Rosa Parks didn't go stand up, then all of us would be where we are today. Somebody has to stand up, and it must happen in the community. I took the chance and said, look, I'm going to work with the police. I don't like what they do, but that is the only way I can influence the way they do things. And so when I go on the beat with them, I do it because I told the borough commander, this is what I want to see to happen. Because I can tell you, 2 policemen, white policemen, do beat our people. They did that in the past. Now they can't do it because they have the cameras on them. So from the time, and I had a training with them as well. I've seen how they taser people. I've seen all that. I had to do the training with them. But what has stopped this thing, I remember very carefully, we were the one who introduced the camera on them. We argued closely for that. We said, look, for what they tell me in Brixton is that when they stop my people, I told you about the body blows. They don't hit you in the face, but right inside the police van, they do hit them. And they were deaf in custody, and we had to confront all these things. But you can only do so when you are engaged with them. Well, these are questions which we are not able to answer, but at least we engage with them and don't ostracize yourself. Go to the police station, engage with them. Pastor will do so, all of us. I'm glad you know what you're saying, and I believe you, because too many of our people are dying in custody as well, and that issue must be addressed. All right. At this particular point, I'll ask Pastor to come and do the closing remarks, and then we should be off here.
Just want to thank you for the time you've spent here. Would like you to know that we at the Peckham Seventh-day Adventist Church are very much open to working with you. We are open to working with you. Let me say it again. We are open to working with you. We are open to facilitate programs, and we are open to actually, even if you want to consider the hall to be a center for young people, we are open to that. And I'm speaking before I even have a conversation with my members, because I know their heart that they're in with their community and they want the best for the community. So consider us when you think about doing any more programs, having a discussion. Come back again and let's have some more conversation so that we can actually make progress with the community, with the police, and all those that affect the lives of our children. Is that all right? Yes. Let us pray. Father God, just want to thank you for what you've allowed it to take place here. Want to thank you for all the things that have been said. And Father God, we know that you are working even while we're not working. So we pray that you will make things happen. And may all the wishes we have, the dreams we have of a better tomorrow become better tomorrow, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Now we're giving out you some gifts. Please take it. Don't leave it behind. It goes with the package of the discussion. Please take it. And I believe there might be some stuff next door. So please just participate and feel free to come with your ideas and your requests to use the church for any of your activities. Have a good night. Okay.
Snacks outside. Wait, preacher.
Yeah?
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. There's snacks across to the right.
You did well, man. I mean, you can't the police, you can't kill them. You can pick them up.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
It's a small fish.
That's right. It is. It is. It is. But you open your church for the community, for them to do.
Go and get Jamila. Go that girl. Go get it.
Yeah.
Because she has a lot of them.